And waiting on people to show up or not. Ripping the lettuce up a little. Taking off that middle. It's a little rough on him. Reptar. Oh, look at that. Hello, Mammy. Hello, Reptar. Oh, should we add some new crunchies to that? Morning, Tex. Pissed off Marine. We're going to add some mealy worms. Oh, look at that. Reptar. You got some virgin watchers. You better be on it. They won't sit around for a half hour waiting for you to decide to move. Thanks, Tex. There's plenty of depression around. I don't need to add to it. We'll do a little show before the show. I got this. I don't know whether I'm going to give it to the cops. It's a donut ring. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm invading his time. And it's off to the races, folks. Yum, 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 yum. This is Reptar, the eating machine. Yeah, pissed off Marine, you're part of the Blue Army. Sorry, you're a Marine. Won't hold that against you. Yum, 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 yum. And for those newbies that have never been in here, Reptar does have a little friend. He has a little friend. It's a unicorn. Hello! I have a special thing. You see, the unicorn is a special thing. It, yeah, poops M&Ms. No, you would be if I eat them. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. I'm out of the salad croutons, but you can actually hear him crunch those through the speaker. On my microphone. Hooray, Navy. I tried to go in the Navy. I wanted to be in sonar because I have really, really sensitive hearing because I'm damn near blind. But you have to be able to see who you're shooting no matter what position you're given in the military. So on my enlistment, I got the 4F military or medical deferment. went to the governor. I got a letter from the head of the medical department of the military in Washington, D.C. that said they were sorry. And then 3 weeks later, I got a draft notice. You had to fill out the draft card even though there was no draft anymore, which was followed by one more letter from the military suggesting I not use so much profanity when I send them information back. One A. That's the one thing with our military, that we generalize it to the point that other countries don't. They will utilize a blind person's hearing without question. They just don't stick him out in the middle of the field with a machine gun and say, shoot people. I'm still trying to use the fact that the microphone's actually in the webcam and I keep yelling at the TV. I know you can eat a little more than that before you crawl up. All those nice skulls you see in there are courtesy of Roadhog Kennel. We've got 4 goat skulls and 2 raccoon skulls. It's only fitting for a dragon cave to have a bunch of bones laying around. Good stuff, Maynard? Are you a happy reptar? You too, Pissed Off Marine. Thanks for stopping in, too. It really helps me to have people that come in here, or else I'd be alone all the time. Upson! Man, I saw that yacht. That's a whole lot of sanding. They're omnivores. I had a stint where I did some repairing on boats. My father-in-law did the fiberglass and I did the wood. You get these rich-ass mofos that buy this huge boat, take it out to the lake, and they think they can just turn the head right towards the open water and run it right into a big rock. We had a 45-foot, 3-bedroom that they sunk. The motor only had 4 hours on it. That was a whole winter redoing all that teak. Oh my God. I breathed so many fumes, I had to kill at least 1 or 2 brain cells. Oh, Reptar, are you all done? Well, thanks for dropping in, Epson. I really appreciate it. Give us some updates on that yacht of yours. I'm glad you and Elena are having a good relationship. It's good to see. And it warms my heart that I'm not alone all the time. Yeah, I enlisted. I had some really funny things that happened to me, Tex. when I went in, they give you this math test, and they made me retake it twice because they said you can't fill that out that fast and get all those answers right. You have to be cheating. And then after I rode the bus to Detroit and spent the night in Howard Johnson, and they fed us this fake food for breakfast. They get you through all the tests. I went through the hearing test. I scored so high on it, I was only on the graph twice. And then I went into the eye test, took about 30 seconds, and they were ushering me out the door. And instead of a ride back to the bus station, they drop you off the side of the building with your suitcase, and you got to walk like 10 city blocks to get to the bus station. So I'm 18 in the middle of Detroit at 3:30 in the afternoon, carrying a huge suitcase. Yeah, that was interesting. And I got to the bus station, and I walked in, and because this guy follows me into the bathroom, and I realized that something's up. And he's like, "What do you got in the suitcase?" I said, "A bunch of dirty, stinky clothes." I said, "I was just over trying to join the military, and they decided I couldn't join because I'm too violent." And he says, "Oh, well, I was just wondering." Yeah, Texas was all Agent Orange when I was a young adult. Now they created a new whole category of post-traumatic stress disorder. When they got to realize the things that you go through in the war, obviously you're not going to come out like you went in. It's funny that they even let me enlist. I was a little concerned because at 15, the feds told my dad that I would be considered an enemy of the state if I didn't join their little group. So the dog nags and whines all the time. You may notice I have a slight bit of bias against women. I try not to show it, but it's hard to hide a bias. I could probably get a better shot of him if I move this over. We're going to take a ride. See if we can get a better view of. Yeah, the light's going to fade it out. There we go. That's not too bad. He sits there and lets the heat digest his food. Lizards and dogs. Sorry about the dryer. I got to do laundry. You got to do that once a year, you know. When I was a kid, there was an old guy that lived homesteaded, no electricity, no power, no nothing. And he always knew the day he boiled his clothes in that lye, because he'd start that kettle boiling and put his clothes in. That lye soap stunk so bad. Once a year, about the time fall started, the SVAB score of the 95. ASVAB. Not sure what that meant. uh, I don't know if it's my computer or what it is, but I have to keep uninstalling and reinstalling Streamlabs because it keeps, after 4 or 5 lives, it just sends everything to a premiere. Premiering in 120 minutes, live, and then I wait and try the 120 minutes and it don't let me premiere nothing. It just stops me from going live. Are you looking at everybody? Well, there's only a couple everybody's. Still can't see you very good. It still bleaches him out. He's darker than that. Thank God for organized sports. They said they're 50 years old. Who won for football? Who won for football? Yeah, how many seconds are we behind? Organized sports was another way to control the masses. There's a good author, Terry Goodkind, that wrote a series of books that he created a whole new planet, basically. And there's one book devoted to a national sport. And he draws the conclusion that government controls sports so that they can control the masses. I tried to like football, but once they got rid of Barry Sanders, the Detroit Lions, it sucked. And now the Detroit Red Wings suck. The Detroit Pistons have always sucked. We even have lower league hockey team in Grand Rapids that suck. But the thing they know in Michigan is that they get numbers. People come to the stadium whether they win or lose, so they don't pay the big bucks for the winners. Yeah, the world stage is pretty complicated. We have the suckiest role of them all, police in the world. And you can say whatever you want about Trump, but he's getting other countries to help pay for it. All right, Tex, I think I'm going to be off for Reptar. He'll probably wait about an hour. Yeah, the war on drugs. If they actually wanted to win it, they could have won it. But they let popular opinion and publicity, and we elect them to do a job. The military's under the government. They should do the job, and everybody's opinion, well, we elected them. A couple of people die, and a couple of people get snowflakes, get upset about it, so we leave. I mean, if there's more than one person on the planet, there's conflict. If you can't accept that there's going to be conflict, then there's not really any starting points. Once a year, yeah. Everybody should wash their clothes at least once a year. And shower at least, twice before Thanksgiving dinner and before Christmas morning. Often studied and researched and looked text, but you know what? You go back to the old caveman and just after days, and you don't find any bathtubs. Just aren't any bathtubs back then. But they survived somehow. No, no dry, hard little cracked chunks of soap or none of that stuff. I know, I look at things in kind of a strange way. I have clearance. I can't get clearance. I'm an enemy of the state. I couldn't believe my dad stood up to them when they knocked on the door and said that your son needs to come and go to this special school. The government needs him. And he said, no. And they said, well, with the kind of skills that he has, he'll be considered an enemy of the state if he's not on our side. And my dad just looked at him and said, he's already an enemy of the state. Goodbye, and shut the door in their face. I was 15 and I was pissed because I thought, well, there's my way out. Oh my God, I'm glad he was smarter than me. I hear you, Tex. I don't lock my doors. I'll deal with you. Come in one way or the other. You come in, you're a friend. Second time, you're family. And if you're not a friend, then coming in probably isn't a good idea. In fact, I'd probably almost guarantee that it's going to be a real short trip for you. You know, I find it kind of different. Or I don't know how would I put it. It's a little bit amusing to me that my entire family was against guns, and I was an avid hunter, and yet after I moved out and my kids grew up, my ex bought a pistol, my son bought a pistol, my daughter bought a pistol, my other daughters married a guy with a lot of guns. So I guess they felt safe when I was living at home and I had a gun. That's why they'll never get rid of our guns, because it makes us feel safe. You are welcome to speak your mind in my room anytime. I certainly do. I have never learned how to be politically correct, and I'm not interested in learning how to be politically correct. We still got to make, I guess I'm going to end up making the phone call to the police department to find out why a police officer gets to use a handicap sticker in an unmarked cop car. My dad tried to have a talk at me when I was about the age of moving out and explained to me that there are people that he knew that know a little bit about a lot of things, and other people tend to not like that. Sometimes it's better not to say anything. And I just looked at him, and I don't know where the conversation would have went, because a snake went across the trail right in front of us that took both of our interests. So, but I think, like, I'm the only person that thinks the way I do. So if I don't share it, then at least you can't test what you believe, nor can you help me to understand how what I believe is wrong. Called out the DoD Department of Defense. I finally got some information about my body. P90K, veteran of war, VA, is only like cops. What I believe that when those new laws get into a place where a vet can go to any place to get treatment, that's probably in the fact that they can now fire the assholes that don't do a fucking thing in the government. I'm hoping the VA actually becomes a better place for the veterans. Well, that's because they're brainwashed into believing that every single person out there is just a criminal waiting to be caught. Nobody could just be a person. Everybody they look at is through these lenses of, they're breaking the law, how can I hang them up? It's never, hey, can I help you? Oh, they'll say I can help you, but that's because that's the beginning of the little pattern that they've been taught to gain your trust, get you to start answering questions, and then use what you say against you. I've had more than one cop in a traffic stop pull a pistol on me. I hear you, Tex. I had a rookie cop that pulled me over when I was in a really bad mood because I had just paid 10 times the amount I was supposed to have for my muffler system to get replaced. Apparently, if you own a Chevelle, you get to pay Cadillac prices for the exhaust system. And I just drove away. It was only 3 miles down the road. He pulled me over because I crossed the road and the rocks that were on the road from the corner dusted his car. So he pulls me over for a loud exhaust system. Well, it did have cherry bombs and cut downs on the back. So yeah, it was loud. But we both came out of the car at the same time. He pulled that pistol, and I said, "You better empty that motherfucker and put it back in the holster." Mr. Smiley's hashtag. I had a 73 Chevelle Malibu Laguna. We had a 65 Chevy Malibu. And later we had two 71 Chevelles. Liked them Chevys. We had a couple of Novas in there too. But Novas are just tanks on tires. The Laguna had the really big doors with the swivel bucket seats and the big, huge rubber bumper on the front. 57? Man, 53 to 57 were all pretty awesome Chevys. My dad worked at Arrow and ordered a brand new Chevy Malibu with, took it to the garage, pulled it out, put in a dump truck clutch and a Corvette drivetrain in it. Now that was a 283 that put some miles on it. Yeah, I know. Everything's pre-planned. They already know where it's going to go. And then the cops will tell you, well, it's your attitude that determines the outcome. Well, cops are supposed to be objective, not subjective. So that's right from the get-go. They confuse their emotions with the law. I had a constable tell me when I was 15 that he could get away with anything he wanted. He was law, not the law was law. And in his town, you did what he wanted. Of course, that was 3 a.m. in the morning, and you probably shouldn't be in town at 15 at 3 a.m. in the morning. He had no idea. I was just going fishing. Well, dang. Chris Powers is a wonderful person. He really, really has been a big help to a lot of people, and he still helps. I had no idea he'd send people to my channel, though. But I did get this for my smiles. Look at what I got for the cops. A donut ring. Isn't that cool? They can have their donut while they're swimming. And my channel has a unicorn that poops M&Ms. And hey, Ben, awful gutsy to show up in here, aren't you? Been having a little fun fest between us. I know. My exhaust is too loud. Roll up your window. Freedom to film. Good to see you. Well, if you want to exchange a tete-a-tete of words, Ben, I'm more than happy to. I enjoy it. The more fun you can make of me, the happier I am. Well, we got Reptar back into a little bit of a routine now that the cage isn't quite as clean, and he's trying to climb out of it all day. There was like hardly any delay between feeding time and eating time. And he'll actually come down and tear into that again in an hour or two once his temperature goes back up and digest some of that. As a gift. Yeah, he pretty much digs that hammock all day long. And when he sleeps, he just pulls way up to the top as high as he can get and just closes his eyes. Yeah, when they recognize your car, you're toast. I grew up in a little small town for a little while till a tornado took our house. It was called Hicksville, Ohio. Gotta be proud of that. Of course, Ben, he'll point out the fact that I also lived in Ferrysburg, Michigan. Yeah, I beat a 442 Ford with a 350 9-passenger station wagon. Probably wouldn't run the whole race, but he put his out in the field. Oh, a 69 Shelby. When I was a teenager, I had a cousin who worked out of Detroit, and he, what do they call that? Airbrushed cars like that. I think he was doing a Mustang when I was there. Had a big old eagle on the front. But man, he'd make a car look like a piece of art. That's what I do. The law may be the law, but I'm telling you that I've been in front of judges that don't give a shit what the law is. If they don't like you, they'll find a way. Lone Star beer on the dash. Oh, Mr. Smiles, what are you doing? I don't really have a dream car. I've had so many stinking cars. It's crazy because I buy old cars. I don't buy new cars. The Laguna was a nice car to drive. Seat belts. I don't know what Chris Powers group is starting or what group he's starting. The thing about groups is you have to conform and your thoughts have to be in alignment or it's a struggle, but if there's a group that can help people and there's a way I can fit into it. I really wanted to try getting out auditing. I did save up for 8 months to get my GoPro, and the bastard sent it to me. It don't work, and I got a cracked windshield, and that's definitely not a thing to have when you're gonna go audit the cops and you can't get far away because you're using a walker to get up to the scene. But I put my camera up a couple of times in front of the cops. But I'll definitely be looking for it because I see him in several of the live streams because I spend most all day on YouTube now. I don't have to watch my grandkids very often, so they don't come and steal the TV from me. They'll watch YouTube too, but it's these crazy marble computer generated games or I don't know. I think when I first got my feelings hurt, they died. So it must have got hurt pretty bad. Yeah, from what I can glean from what I've seen in the chats, he has his heart in the right place. I mean, he worked on getting Joe Cool that nice iPhone. Well, that's the thing. We have a lot of people out there that are willing to go and do things, and now we have a temporary platform that we can commingle in. Look at how many people that you wouldn't have talked to if it weren't for YouTube. I mean, I would have never known about auditors without YouTube because I don't do anything on Facebook but family stuff. But since I was a little kid and couldn't read the chalkboard, I realized that you have to stand up to authority and make them show you why they're in charge of you. Are you anywhere near the odor? I've been to Chicago a couple times, and when we come from the down and around the lake and come up, man, you get close to Chicago and it stinks. It come out just right. I just had to put my southern drawl in there a little bit for YouTube. I had a hell of a time when I first started out on the phone where you had to push all those letters and then it'd switch the word. And I wouldn't be able to read that part because I had to focus on the letters and I'd type some shit that didn't make any sense to me. But you ever want to use something really funny, go to Google Translations and you can have something translated through like 3 different languages and bring it back to English and it's nothing close to what you said. Gary, Indiana. I grew up in Hicksville, Ohio, Ney, Ohio. Those are near Defiance, Ohio, but they're not near Indiana. And we spent our entire existence getting in the car and driving up to northern Michigan to live. Dad worked and we went to school in Ohio, but everything else we did up in northern Michigan. And then we finally moved up there and couldn't afford to do nothing. Is that the mills that make that odor? I thought maybe it was all the pig corpses. Just kidding. I know it's bad though. Whew. I mean, we had a section of the highway here between here and Grand Rapids that had Comstock, or not Comstock, Coopersville, and they had a dump right along the edge of the road, and there was like a 10-mile stretch. You rolled your windows up, even if you didn't have air in the summer. But now it's done. It got filled. They covered it up, buried it, and all that property jumped in value like 3 times what it used to be. Put-in-Bay, yeah. The Toledo Zoo is pretty nice. I wouldn't go back to Ohio to go to it. And then they have in Sandusky, they have SeaWorld and Cedar Point. That's about it for me for Ohio. Phew! Ooh, that moved a couple ribs. Mm. Gay, Michigan. Hot. Ah. Well, that's like, then we have a whole community over by Hudsonville, Shelbyville, that is all Deutsch. And they came over in between two big wars, and they came into Michigan and they told the locals that they were Deutsch, and they said, "Oh, you're from Holland, that's great." And they just kind of looked at him and went, "Yeah, jawohl, we from Holland." And to this day, they call those people Dutch. I don't. Yeah, I lived in the middle of farm country in Ohio and at the edge of a swamp in Michigan. There he goes. That's his regular spot. 6 months ago, his tail was about as thick as my thumb. Now it's a good inch and a quarter at the stump there. He lets me pet the top of his head. He doesn't really care for it. But he's real mild-mannered. I pick him up and put him in the drawer when I change his cage. He don't mind. But he was around 3 of my grandchildren when he was a baby, so he's used to really being handled. Conversion therapy. Damn a gay school. Unclench cutter? I've seen you before in somebody's chat. Yeah, he jumped right into lunch when I fed him. He didn't spend his half hour waiting around. He's just hanging out digesting. Glad to have you in the room. You become part of the Blue Army in here just because that's the way it is. I'm not concerned with trolls. I definitely can handle them on my own. Well, there are 6 skulls in there. They're complements of Roadhog Kennel. 4 of them are adult skulls, and 2 of them are raccoon skulls. And my Christmas present is going to be a bunch of smaller animal skulls from him. And at that point, I'll switch to sand instead of the mat and turn it into a real desert scene. I don't know. I always figured, lizards and skulls and desert, they all ought to go together. What city girl doesn't like a country boy? Well, country boys are usually taught manners. And you show some manners to a lady and she's around a bunch of city boys, you already got 1 or 2 points on your side. He's just a little over a year old, a year and 4 months, I think. Yeah, I've been looking for a back screen. I can get a couple of pictures of Central Australia. That's kind of what I want to put on the back. But I haven't decided if I'm going to be putting enough money into really building a good cage or just leave him in here. He's going to get bigger and thicker, but not a whole lot longer probably. So he could not need a bigger cage, but you need to scroll up all the way. You mean scroll down? Why, am I running behind or something? I don't have a delay built in. I'll tell you a story about that. When my wife deserted me and I was on my own and my cell phone was tied to her phone number, she shut it off about 5 times in 6 months before the divorce. And every time I would call up, if I got a southern lady on the phone, I was golden. She was going to get my phone turned back on. If it was sounded like Boston or any other place in the country, I just hung up. And I'd call back until I got a southern woman. And every time they were, oh, that's so sad. We'll take care of that for you. Always helpful. I don't know if it's the fact that they don't freeze their ass off in the winter like we do, but they definitely are more helpful. But most all people up here would help you out if you aren't. What's that? You're like a minute and a half behind. Okay, so it's not me. I never know what YouTube's going to do to me next. After I go live 3 or 4 times, I got to uninstall Streamlabs because every time I go live, it says to premiere in an hour and 20 minutes. I'm like, no, I want to go live. And I got to uninstall it to get it to go back. Go, Raptor, you tell them. Did you realize you're still on camera? If you haven't looked at any of my cop stuff, there's one video about 2 weeks ago where I was taken aback when I pulled into a Walmart parking lot and there was a cop car in a handicap spot with a handicap sticker on the mirror inside the car. That's the OBS system to go online and go live. It's called Streamlabs OBS. You have to have some form of a platform to go live. I used to just hit go live on YouTube for like 8 months. And then all of a sudden it doesn't let me get to the go next screen to go live. And I'm not sure if it's my computer or if it's YouTube doing it to me. Because it was weird because I have another channel that was supposed to be my gaming channel for my grandkids. And it would let me go live on that channel, but not my main channel. And then it wouldn't let me go live on either. So I had to download Streamlabs. And Streamlabs, you can hook it to YouTube, you can hook it to Twitch, you can hook it to Instagram, Facebook, and then you just open up Streamlabs, and it lets you figure out what you're going to use for your audio, what you're going to use for your video, and go live. You hit the button, and mine's set up for YouTube, so it starts a YouTube channel open. YouTube communism? Well, they're built on capitalism, and the unique thing about capitalism is it isn't built on a rock foundation. It will get to the point where the people it takes money from don't want it anymore. And they'll push it to that point because that's how you make money. Oh, this could get fun. I gotta move this around to make sure you're seeing this whole thing. She still thinks she can step off there because she sees the reflection of the bottom of the cage out in front of him. Whoop, a little quick, but I got it done. Oh, you're going to be obnoxious, aren't you? Going back for more food? But I'm using a computer at my house. It's supposed to, after that 1,000 subs, I was still live for 2 months, 3 months. Now, if I try on my phone, it says that, but that's not supposed to affect PCs, according to their policies and regulations. Well, you want to get what? You're looking for a close-up? You want to get them? Huh? But yeah, that was only supposed to be for cellular devices. You see, he did that for hours after I first cleaned his cage. Because usually when I wash the glass, I wash the inside with a special spray for reptiles, but I won't wash the outside because once you leave one of them dirty, he sees it's glass. But if you move the stuff around in the cave, that also can piss him off or make him not feel like it's home where he was home. So this time I added 3 skulls, moved most of the things around, changed the angle on the hammock, and washed both sides of the glass because I was behind. 3 days and nights he spent telling me how unhappy he was with it. But he's quiet. You could hear his claws scratch the glass at night. Thank you. He gets kind of a varied diet. He'll go mealworms and crickets, whether they're freeze-dried or live. And then I feed him romaine. I've tried other lettuces. And man, he hates kale. So do I. So I was so glad romaine was our choice. And there's a ground pellets that they have at the pet stores. They're red, and it's got a combination with a few vitamins. But their one drawback to the lizard is they have a calcium deficiency, and they give you a powder, calcium powder to put with the food. I dust all his live food with it, but he hasn't had any live food in about 4 months. You're gonna make me adjust the camera, aren't you? You love kraut? I read lizard on that. That's how bad my eyes are. Actually, they have plates in their mouth, not teeth. And if you see him, if you slow it down, or if you get it, he sticks that tongue almost 2 inches out of his mouth and pulls the food in, and then he just crunches it with between the 2 plates. So the closest he's come is stuck his tongue out and touched my finger a couple of times. Now, when we had the huge iguana, man, that almost took the end of my son's thumb off, and he crushed it. He crushed the bone in the end of his thumb. So it's more of a crushing than it is a biting and ripping. But they look vicious, don't they? Of course, if you look at my avatar, the one day that I took that picture was because he couldn't wait for me to finish feeding him. Getting all the food in there, he ran underneath the lettuce, and he's got that little lettuce hat on. And that lettuce hat stayed on for like 6 hours. I didn't actually take that picture till about 3 hours after he had it land on his head. Look at him, just hangs his legs over and just, It might be the secondhand smoke, a little, I don't know, maybe. I've never believed in it. I've tried to get it, and I couldn't ever make any use of secondhand smoke, but maybe lizards can. But a bearded dragon was a good choice for low maintenance, lives well by itself, not aggressive, really cheap to feed. I mean, you can feed it for as little as $10 a month. And it will have fresh lettuce every day. Yeah, you can buy the large bags of freeze-dried mealworms. They'll be in the pet section. It's for birds and chickens and anything, so they're cheap. Live, they're a little more expensive. If I wanted like 2,000 live mealworms, that's like $30. But technically, that would be the only time you'd have to spend any money on them because they reproduce and they're pretty easy to take care of. Yeah, see, I have 2 lights. Other people will have a heater plate on the bottom, and different kinds of lizards are more critical. He's got a pretty wide range. Comfort zone is like 80 to 105, and the Central Australian desert climate is cool in the winter, so it can get down to 70 in there. Other than it's slowing his digestion down, it doesn't hurt him at all. But yeah, I have one light that's a ceramic light that I run all winter. In the summer, I just run it at night, and then the daylight is just a 60-watt full spectrum daylight, and that does run a few bucks. My grandson they moved him down in the basement when he got the lizard. He had it down in the basement, and the first time they ordered live grasshoppers, or crickets, excuse me, not grasshoppers. They ordered 1,200, and it comes in kind of a small box, and he gets home from school an hour before mom and 2 hours before dad. And so he comes in the house, and I'm watching the grandkids, and he goes to the basement. And unbeknownst to me, he grabbed the box off the porch that was delivered by Amazon, and down he goes. Then he comes back up, and I go home, and I get a call about an hour later from my daughter yelling at me for letting him have the crickets. I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, when he got the box crickets, he went downstairs while you were watching him and opened the box, and they all got out in his room. I said, how many is all? 1,200. I just hung up. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say now. Click. She called back 3 hours later. We're still picking up these fucking crickets.
I was like, oh my God, thanks for telling me that. I'm going to be very careful if I order crickets to open the box. Oh, they just go everywhere. And those are like, I mean, I grew up there, we had big black crickets. But they like could jump like 3 inches. These little gray bastards, they can go from one side of this cage to the other. Just whoop, there they go. You have the top off, whoop, they're out. It's like, and he dives across this cage to eat them. I'll have to show definitely when I get some. It's a budget thing right now, but it's amazing how far those crickets jump. So yeah, I couldn't imagine like 1,200 out in this bedroom. I mean, the bedroom wouldn't have been clean to begin with. It'd be like 6 inches of stuff on the floor and a little path to the bed. Yeah. Well, actually, that big hunk of petrified wood that you can't see under the hammock very well. Maybe I can give you a shot of it. Oops. And that's petrified wood. That sucker weighs 29 pounds, that little hunk of wood. And there's a hole right up through the middle of it. And 6 crickets can fit in that, and he can't get to them. I found this out the second time I fed him, and I couldn't figure out why in the heck the crickets were still there. But unbeknownst to the crickets, the hole goes all the way through, and if you stick a straw up in the top and you go, they all go flying out from underneath the rock. Yeah, I could have never afforded it. They had it when they brought the cage. I mean, I bought that log in the hammock. It was like 19 bucks, 14 bucks or something for the hammock, and they love the hammock. Some natural bamboo, I think, weave, and he can't get his claws stuck in it, which I was kind of concerned. Well, he lays in it like a trooper, I'll tell you. I just couldn't believe how heavy it was either. Wow. When I had a mini reef, I would buy what they called live coral. And you go to the saltwater pet store, and they'll buy like 3 big styrofoam tubs full of what chunked up like a foot or so, maybe 3 or 4 inches thick of live coral that they break off the floor of the ocean. And you'd think you're buying rock, but you're buying coral. And you put it in your aquarium, and it looks like a hunk of rock. And after about 3 days, you may have 3 shrimp, a couple crabs come out. You've got coral that's sticking out all different holes, little clams that are attached to it. And you start counting it up, and that's an expensive way to have a tank, is to buy that stuff one at a time. But you can spend 30 bucks on that rock and maybe have $600 worth of animals come out of it. Now, if you have an aquarium full of coral-eating fish, they all get eaten. So you got to decide when you get a mini reef whether you're going to have the fish that eat everything or the everything. My tank was the everything. I did have a few fish, but the really cool fish, they eat everything. Not a profitable way to have a tank, but that was still the most expensive pet I had to take care of, was a mini reef. Reptar, he's cheap. As long as you don't let the water go stagnant, you clean the cage with the reptile cleaner, there's no odor at all from it. What is going on with you? Trying to hog the show? Yeah, it'll probably be middle of winter. Not all, if it's going to go that route. I don't mind the length. I would like to have it be taller so he can have more elevation. But they set up at the top no matter what you build for them, so keeping it more compact is probably the best for viewing. Got that frog face going, buddy. See, that right jowl is more expanded than the left jowl because it still has food in it. I think so. And he's got a great name. I mean, anything named Reptar. Kermit back there. I just love his whiskers. His whiskers run all the way down his body. I thought you might eat again. It's a little cool in here. Wow. Well, you don't want to lose focus when you're hitting the vape. Whew. You might do it a couple times too many if you don't think about it. Do you need makeup, Reptar? Are you still ready to go? What's going on? You stand up on your tail for him? When I first started putting in there, changed the title. Each live has a different title, but somehow when it uploads the same title over and over again. I haven't quite figured that out, but I'm a tech idiot to begin with. I just watch other people do stuff. Well, I guess it's time to go check the laundry. I appreciate you guys coming in. Anybody who watches can leave comments. I appreciate them. I check every one of them. Taking time out of your day to stop into an old man's cave. In this way, Reptar has become forever. Aren't you? You have been immortalized forever, Reptar. They may find the videos of YouTube in 10 billion years and think you were the master race. Who knows? Oh, that was good vape. I'm telling stories now. All right. I'll be back again in the next feeding. As we're fond of saying, Reptar and I, we gone.